Hey, this is Tandy with Common Ground Alaska. I'm so excited to be here and talk for a minute with Triffawna Witt. She is from Alaska Traditional Preservation, and she doesn't just love gardening, like she has a passion for growing stuff and for not just growing, but the harvest too. It is just clearly something that she knows well. But it's not, it goes even deeper. Triffawna has an extensive knowledge on the art of permaculture growing rather than, which would be like regenerative type gardening, rather than the traditional style that we're used to. And the reason that I had reached out to Triffawna was because I was really excited about what she had to say about regenerative agriculture in Alaska, because if you've read books or if you've researched anything about permaculture, you've seen or noticed probably that not everything that's suggested will work here. So she's done a ton of work, a ton of experimenting, a ton of learning. And so she's going to talk to us a little bit about today about kind of what permaculture looks like in Alaska. And I just wanted to note also that Triffawna is actually teaching a class for us this weekend. The next 2 weekends she is teaching a class this weekend on permaculture, and next weekend it's going to be on seed starting and general gardening. And if you are new to gardening in Alaska, these are two classes that you really wouldn't want to miss. They're offered both in person in Big Lake, and you can watch it online if you'd like, or you can just order the class and then wait for the replay. But I think that you're going to learn a lot just today from Triffawna, and I am positive that it's going to kind of ignite that gardening bug in you on this beautiful spring day. So Triffawna, I'm so thankful that you have joined us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Tandy, for having me. My name is Triffawna. I absolutely love gardening and all that entails to the abundant harvest that we end up having. It's amazing and different every year. And I'm very passionate about the permaculture aspect of doing all this. And um, yeah, you mentioned that I'm from Alaska Traditional Preservation, which I suppose is our farm name and business. And yeah, just excited to get talking about that.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, we're excited to have you. So tell me first, I'm gonna just kind of pepper some questions at you one at a time. What is permaculture?
Yeah, permaculture is probably a more regenerative agriculture method and lifestyle. Really, there's lots to permaculture more than just the growing, food aspect of it, and it's a way to apply it to your whole life beyond the garden, which is just amazing. And it's rich in community too, which is really good to have around here. We're really proud about that. And
Absolutely.
yeah,
So
it's
So when you work in a more permaculture type setting, then you're working with the land, not against the land. Is that, I mean, that's probably
oh yeah,
my own maybe layman's way to explain it,
it's
but you're basically instead of fighting this climate that we have here in Alaska, which it is, winter is really long and summer is, seems anyway, really short. So instead of fighting it, this is a way to use natural what everything, to use what naturally occurs here and to use that to our advantage to kind of extend our season and to give us a richer soil. Is that correct?
oh yeah, definitely. I was tired of fighting the long winter and the short seasons, and having to pretty much almost start over every season was just not not feasible and not sustainable. So doing permaculture and long-term views that it can have really helps in Alaska, and it's really easy to I would say easier to do. But yeah, it's much better. It's than what we were doing for sure.
Okay. So when we talked previously, you said that you started with just, just bare land. You just kind of moved into a normal kind of foresty area. And you took, I think you said, correct me if I'm wrong, you said you took about a quarter of an acre, which is what you started with, and you just started, tell us kind of what that process looked like with the mulching and not tilling. Tell us kind of what that looked like a little bit.
Yeah, so we only have about 1.5 acres, which you can do a lot with, and most of it had been untouched. There was just a house here and trees and brush and, woods around what it would look like for central Matsu Valley. And so we knew right away our first year we needed to put some kind of growing space in. And luckily they did clear a little area when they put our septic in. So we started with that was already done and we grew from there. But in our first season we were able to have vegetables for the winter. They weren't, market quality, but they were able to, grow and be harvested to consume. And we used all that brush that they had cleared and built a couple of hugelkultur mounds and mulching, all this debris that they had cleared for our septic. So that, having all that we needed to clean up, I immediately knew I wanted a bunch of hugelkultur mounds for starters, and that helped immensely for our first season.
Okay, so I think that that's awesome, and that's the perfect segue into my next question, which is, what in the world is hugelkultur, and why? Like, what is it, and why should Alaskans be listening when they hear the word hugelkultur? What advantages does it have?
Yeah, well, it's a mouthful word and a fun word to say. And I think Alaskans can really benefit from doing at least one of them because of all the materials natural that we have around us, all the brush and cleanup. I mean, you don't have to burn anything. You don't have to haul anything away. You use, what is already present in your property, and you turn it into something beautiful that can grow, vegetables or perennials, and you know, it's going to, compost and break down anyways if you leave it in your yard. But turning it into these hugelkultur mounds, you can take all of that and build it into something. So
Right.
it's
So
and
basically,
right away too, like
yeah.
so that's really nice.
That's awesome. So basically you're taking with a hugelkultur, with a traditional hugelkultur, when I first learned about it, you're taking big logs and then you're taking maybe limbs and then you're taking sticks and you're
Mhm.
kind of stacking them all in and then you're putting like leaves and grass clippings and then you're putting some compost and then and I don't remember all the exact layers, but it's layer upon layer until you get to the top, and that's where just at the very top, that's where you're putting in your soil, that because you have to have some soil on top, of course. And so what happens is in hugelkultur, then these break down, and as they're breaking down, they're
Yeah.
they're continuing to add nutrients to your garden, correct?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would say for hugelkultur you have about 5 layers minimum. You can add in more if you like of the same thing. But yeah, it's larger stuff that's already kind of decomposed, but not too rotten, and then smaller, and then some straw, which is your carbon or leaves and stuff if you can get those. And then like a hot or aged compost, and then yeah, your soil. I mean, very little soil can go on top. And layering it from bigger to smaller, it holds it all in like a nice little cobweb, and it just keeps it all together and held. And the doing this, the idea behind it is to leave it, long term for the next seasons to come. So that's really great to not have to start over every year and having these all ready to go. I mean, you can amend it more a little bit with soil if any, you know, goes away during the winter. But it's pretty much ready to go this year already when the snow melts, which is really, really nice.
It is nice. And they actually thaw out a little faster because they're decomposing. They're actively decomposing.
Yeah,
So they're going to heat up a little faster. And so they're going to thaw. So not only does hugelkultur kind of provide a natural way of building kind of building beds that are constantly have nutrients because they're constantly decomposing, but they also can give you a little bit of a boost in your microclimate because they do provide heat because there's heat happening down below. And we'll definitely go into hugelkultur a lot more in the class, I'm sure, on Saturday. But we built our first hugelkultur beds last summer, and they worked tremendously well, far better than I expected. It was more of a kind of an experiment. I don't know. I guess maybe I didn't have it wasn't that I didn't have hope. I just wasn't sure what I was doing because it seemed a little obscure a little bit because it isn't my normal tilling to make a row or fill up a raised bed with dirt idea. But we did hugelkultur in several spots, including in my tires. I grew spaghetti squash in tires, and I grew tomatoes in tires. I grew a bunch of stuff in tires, and it just worked tremendously well. I was really excited. So I love the whole idea of it, and I love that you're not it's that whole waste not,
yeah,
so instead of burning your twigs from we do a lot of pruning because we have, 4-acre orchard. So instead of pruning the twigs and burning them, they're coming in here and they're building garden beds, which I think is really cool too. But one tip that I have is some things like currants, they don't quite understand that when you prune them back, that now they're supposed to die. So if you
yeah.
and our
I would be
honeyberries,
careful.
yeah, so our currants and our honeyberries both, now we have all these volunteer currants and honeyberries. And so, you need to kind of understand that what can go in there and what's not. Um, but I
Yeah.
love that idea. And Triffawna, were you raised with this concept, or how did you come about this?
Oh golly, no, I was not. I don't think I was raised too much with the permaculture mindset. I mean, some aspects of it, sure, but the whole nitty-gritty gardening, no, I would say no. My family roots are from Southeast Indiana, which is rich in, monocropping and, that whole uh, agriculture design of that. And watching how my parents did their garden, long term, a couple years was okay, but long term, they had, disease issues and soil health was just not very good. And yeah, I didn't want to do that. It was not going to be sustainable for our family.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then another just to kind of take just a brief step back when we talk about hugelkultur, another thing that I thought was interesting is when I was reading about it, they always said, start with a big log and all this. But then I actually asked Jody Anderson she's a soil scientist. Well, she's not now. She's I'm not sure, I can't remember what her new job is, but she has a new amazing job. She is the greatest advocate for agriculture in our state, I think. But she is a soil scientist, and I had asked her about it, and her suggestion was not to start. When you live in Alaska, you kind of have to make some changes based on
Mhm.
what will work and what won't work. And what happens is, because our summers are so short and they're cooler, we just don't have the decomposition that we have in the lower 48. It takes longer. It happens, but it takes longer. So the main thing that I learned from her was just start with smaller sticks, smaller debris, or like you said, stuff
Yeah.
that's already starting to decompose. And when you think about, clearing land and you're pulling up these old, wet pieces of trees that aren't yet, they're not decomposed. What are you going to do with them? They're not going to burn in a burn pile. And who would have thought that that actually is something, all of us would like, we'd all show up in our pickup trucks if we knew somebody was pulling that stuff out of there, because that's what we want in the bases of our beds. I think that's pretty fabulous. So
Oh gosh, the amount of people that have given me funny looks about asking for bags of leaves.
exactly.
They're like,
Exactly.
what do you want that for? Oh, another, person's trash is another man's treasure. So
That's right. That's right. Another piece of permaculture that I think is really beautiful, that kind of fills in, kind of makes it full circle, is that we can use our animals, whether we're growing animals for meat or, for our protein sources. So whether we're growing for meat or for eggs or, whatever, in our garden. And it's instead of having to build a fence around, of course I build a fence around things for a minute because I want the harvest, but then they get the rest. They get the leftovers. And but tell me like, how do you use your poultry? I'm understanding there's kind of a funny story behind this about getting into raising poultry, but how do you use the animals to kind of aid in the permaculture process?
well, we don't have a fence around our big garden. So the chickens last season didn't bother too much with the garden. They ate elsewhere. I mean, we have quite a bit of space for them to free range. The ducks were able to get into the garden and get all the slugs, which oh my gosh is so nice, and all the other bugs and things that they're eating. The chickens do peck at the garden, so I only really let them free range outside of their run, when I'm out there, which is pretty much all the time during the summer. So I'm not too worried about it. And the size that we're growing on, they're not really gonna eat more than that will cause too much damage. But the ducks I'm quickly liking a lot more, I suppose, long term for garden and the way we run things versus chickens. But we'll see how that goes. I did get started into chickens and poultry, kind of funny, when I was probably about 15 or 16. I had friends who had birds and other livestock like horses and goats and things. And being a teenage girl or whatnot, I was wanting some birds, something to get it going, get started into farm animals, I suppose. They do say chickens are the gateway into that. But my friend's mom took us all to a pet zoo, and they had those big troughs full of baby chicks, and I was like, oh, they're so cute, and it's Easter time, and I got 3 chicks. Now 15, I don't know if they should really let a kid buy chickens, I mean they should, but
Kids
yeah,
need,
so I it took
kids need to know what their
it took
moms
them
need to know what their kids are getting into.
yeah, yeah. Yes. And she, I was there with my friend's mom, and she didn't care, whatever. And because they lived like this already, and we only had a garden at home and no chickens yet. But so I brought these 3 chicks home in a box, hid them in my closet,
Oh my gosh.
and put them in a little tote, and got a heat lamp from my friend's mom, and she got me like food and stuff. Like they're little babies, they're they're not too hard to care for at this point, and but I'm still going to school and I'm playing sports, so I'm still out of the house during the day. And I think it was about a week I had them, and I came home one day and my dad didn't look very happy. And I knew, oh no. And I walk in and he sits me down and he's all like, so, I was just out in the hallway and seen a red glow coming from your room. And it was more warm in your room than usual. So he walks in and opens my closet and, the red light. Okay. At this time, I suppose he should have been grateful I was only growing chickens in my closet because I think that was 2010 or 2011 or something. And yeah, so it's always funny. And so that got him into, well, I can't cull these birds because, like they're just little babies. So my dad kept them and we were able to keep them and raise them. And he ended up ordering a bunch more. So yeah, that got him into poultry for a couple years. He still has his coops, and we'll see if he'll do birds in the future. But
Oh my
yeah,
gosh. That is such a great story. So you
I
started
give
had
him
like
a
these
hard, yeah, I give him a hard time. Oh, you should be thankful I was growing chickens.
that's
I
right.
don't.
Oh my gosh, what a great story. Oh my goodness. So yeah, so we just all hope that if our teenagers ever get in trouble, it's for contraband chickens in their closet, not not growing something else, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. So, I think that I appreciate what you've kind of told us about permaculture and about kind of the whole regenerative agriculture concept, and I'm excited to learn more. So, in this weekend's permaculture class, can you tell us just a tiny little bit about I'm super excited about our project that we're doing. Can you just tell us a little bit about what our project is that we're going to do?
yeah. So since it's a classroom setting, I wanted some kind of activity where you could still take what you learned home, just on a small scale, and be able to learn. And what we're going to do is have these pots, about big enough to do layers of hugelkultur in, so you can learn, like hands-on what that looks like, what it means, like why you're having this layer in that spot and whatnot. And then you can take that home and build on a bigger scale in your yard, if you would like to. And I definitely recommend that people do, because it's just so great. But yeah, I thought the pot would be a great idea to do in the classroom, and I'm excited. We were out last weekend preparing all the layers for y'all to do that with.
I think that's going to be
Like,
super fun. I'm excited. And the pots that
yeah.
we even got for the class, which I think is super fun, are clear. So you can actually see when you're filling it, you can kind of, and once it's done, you can see those layers, which I think is just,
Oh yeah.
it just kind of adds an element of the education side to it. And then Triffawna, you're teaching the class the next week as well, which is seed starting, and it's kind of like a gardening 101. Is that right? That's what this class is going to be, the second one.
Yeah, which I don't know if I could be any more excited. I was excited about making the permaculture slides and getting that ready, and doing the seed starting gardening is just even more exciting because I get asked questions all the time. Probably the biggest one is, when do I start things? Because like you have to start things, fairly early, to get it all ready to just go out and grow in our short season. But yeah, we're going to talk about in that class for seed starting and what you'll need. Lighting is a big one. We make all of our lights. My husband's an electrician, which really helps out for things that we do around here. And then some garden layouts and different ways to arrange your vegetables for higher production. That definitely has helped us out a lot, figuring out what plants like each other. And yeah, just the pretty much the basics to get a beginner or an expert ready, I suppose.
Yeah.
There's still plenty of time to do things. I'm sitting here wondering where January went, but even at March, there's so much time still. So yeah, it's a great time to take either or both of the classes and get going for this season. Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited for both of them, and I just want to mention that we also were able to get we worked with Foundroot and we worked with Seeds and Soil Farm. So they're both Alaska-based seed companies. So Seeds and Soil, I think that she does all of her own seeds right here in the valley. Um, I'm not positive that she doesn't outsource, and I'm not sure, I should have asked. But anyway, when I approached her about this, about because their seeds are, seeds are expensive, and I was trying to keep the cost of the class down, and she just gladly gave us a really great discount so we could offer, some varieties of seeds. So we have some stuff from them. And she is also majorly into permaculture, and just like I feel like it's almost leaving your spot in the world better than you found it, kind of.
Yeah.
So I would highly recommend that you follow Seeds and Soil on socials and stuff, but also, and I think they just launched a new podcast, but also Foundroot, when I reached out to them, she gave us a heck of a deal on our seeds. And it was really fun because she you may have seen or heard the show that we have where I got to interview her. But when we were talking about the seed, she was like, "Oh, we could send this, or maybe we should send these." And like hearing her get so excited about, and she was like, "Oh, but people love to grow these." And I'm not going to tell you what our seed varieties are, but I will tell you that I'm really, really excited with the seed varieties that they sent up. So if you're planning on coming to those classes, whether you attend virtually or in person, we'll send you the packets of seeds. So if you are attending virtually, don't worry. I'll when the show starts, I'll give you the information so that I can make sure that I send out those seed packets to everyone, because they did provide plenty. So I'm just really excited. Here's the thing. There's nothing that I love more than when I open up my Facebook page, and usually it's, the end of July, beginning of August, when you start seeing all these people posting pictures of what they've grown, like a picture of their kid eating a radish out of the garden and it's still got the dirt on it, and it doesn't matter because
Oh
it's
yeah.
the dirt. And or a picture of them like holding a tomato that's the size of their hand. And um so it's incredible, and it's such an honor to go on this journey with people, and with people, more and more people getting into gardening. It just has been such a blast, as I know you agree. Just getting
Yeah.
to kind of be with people from the beginning and watch them learn, and I learn from everyone, even from, beginners will sometimes ask a question that I wouldn't have necessarily thought of, um, but that's really smart. So it's just great. So I'm really looking forward to the next couple weekends, and I'm looking forward to seeing. We'll make sure that you follow also Alaska Traditional Preservation on socials, because I was looking at your pictures from last year, and oh my goodness, it's inspiring. It's pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you grow this summer too.
Yeah, I am too. It's always different. You can grow the same things, which we try to, and something always surprises us than it did last year. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I totally get that. Triffawna, this has been a great chat, and I appreciate you taking the time, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you this weekend.
Oh, I'm looking forward to Tandy, and thanks so much. This has been great. Yeah.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right. See you soon. Bye.